Joe Biden and Donald Trump faced off in the final debate of the election season last night, and it turned out better than I think a lot of people expected that it would, and that pretty much covers the show for the day. Here is just review of that. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Vietnam. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today, and almost all of it revolves around the debate that we watched last night. Those of you who came by and hung out with myself and Stephen Ignoramus and the R-Rated Conservative, thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us. We got a couple new subs over on the D Live side. Obviously, we didn't try to do anything with the YouTube side because Wojcicki and CNN would have shut us down immediately. But thanks to everybody who hung out with us over on the D Live, the Twitch, Periscope, for whatever reason, is still not working for us. So that's something that we do have to come back and watch. And I don't have live chat up here, so let me fix that quick. Besides, you guys can't talk to each other cross-platform if I don't have it up. So let's go fix that real quick. And then we will get into the news. Give that just a second to load up and think faster, because this old girl she's getting to the end of her life. I hate to say that, but she's done well for the streaming that I have asked this computer to do, and what great lengths I've asked it to go on, what little bit of processor it has. It's going to take a second for this to think up, but it'll be worth it once it's up there. So give that just a minute here. There it goes. Finally. Move that over here, and let's get the news back up. And get back into it. On-air production, the best thing in the world for everybody to see. Alright, before we get into any of the news and any of the review from the debate last night, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Freckles and Brit Show, who also did a brief live stream recap last night. We also carry The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, who did a debate pregame, and the R-Rated Conservative, who hung out with me and Stephen Ignoramus last night as well. So come on over there, check us out, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. All right, starting with the stocks last night. Looks like we had a little bit of a movement back and forth up here, but it looks like everything started to climb towards the end of the day here, and that is partially because Nancy Pelosi is hopeful at this point that we are looking at a stimulus coming up before the election pops out. Once again, they're ready to spend your money. Give you, as Spartan likes to say, that UBI that's going to save the world, but they're going to get out there, they're going to figure this out, and the stock market's going to climb, and hopefully for Nancy, unfortunately for the rest of us, Nancy could possibly retain her seat well beyond her years and into her 80s. So let's see what the investors have to say about that. But that's what the chart looks like. 0.5% up, 152.84 up. And we'll see what IBD has to say. My ad blocker isn't working either, by the way. I figured that out as I was getting ready to go on air, and it would have wasted even more time to get there. So I'll figure that out on the back end. But from Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones Futures, Intel dives on earnings, but these three IPOs fly. Stock market rally, hard to read, from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures rose modestly early Friday, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, as investors continue to await the latest stimulus deal news. Chip giant Intel plunged following earnings. Though that was good news for AMD stock, the stock market rally ended Thursday with a slight positive reversal for the major indices. Leading stocks were definitely a mixed bag. PayPal stock fell back below its buy point on Thursday, while D.R. Horton and several home builders now have failed breakouts. Once again, it's getting cold and nobody is going out there and building homes up in my neck of the woods. But down in your Alabama, your California, your Florida, places like that, they're still going to build homes out into this part of the year because it's warm out. People can still do stuff. North Carolina, I hear, is a pretty good one for that too. But up here, it was supposed to be 70 yesterday. That didn't come to pass, but we're still up to a point where nobody's building homes. So, of course, they're going to start failing this time of year. Tesla rose following strong earnings but closed near session lows even as broader markets perked up. Meanwhile, Apple, Amazon fell a little bit further below their 50-day lines, while Adobe stock undercut that key level. Microsoft tested its 50-day before closing a fraction higher. Outside the Dow, a trio of new IPOs made big moves. Snowflake soared above yet another early entry point. Unity Software leapt to just below buy points, while Array Technologies surged to record highs with barely more than a pause. I wouldn't really call them IPOs anymore because all three of them, we've been talking about all three of them since they came out, and they've all been out for a month. So it's really no longer initial public offerings. Now they're just public offerings. But I get what they're saying. They're all new. So still, the mixed action in leading stocks and the fairly lackluster upside reversal in the major indices didn't inspire a lot of confidence. The stock market rally is still in a confirmed uptrend, but its very recent action has been weak. Tesla stock, LGI Homes, and PayPal are on the IBD leaderboard. PayPal stock is on Swing Trader. Microsoft stock and Adobe are on the IBD long-term leaders. AMD, PayPal, Adobe, Microsoft, and Amazon are on the IBD 50. All right, briefly into the futures. Dow futures climbed 0.35% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.4%, and NASDAQ 100 futures rose 0.2%. Intel is a member of Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ, but has a far smaller weight than the likes of Apple and Microsoft. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, a little bit of a counter here, a little bit something else going on from Market Insider, a division of Business Insider. And hey, as long as the ad blocker's not working, let's use the one that they're going to put up there. So, from Market Insider, Dow climbs 153 points after Nancy Pelosi suggests a stimulus deal is close. From Matthew Fox. U.S. stocks reversed on an early decline and finished higher on Thursday as negotiations of another round of fiscal stimulus showed progress. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters that talks with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin were just about there, adding the president wants a bill that's part of the opportunity that we have. But obstacles remain for another round of stimulus before the November election, as Senate Republicans have shown little appetite to pass anything but a skinny stimulus deal focused on extending aid to small businesses. New weekly jobless claims totaled 787,000 last week, so that's coming down, coming in below the medium economist estimate of 870,000 compiled by Bloomberg. The reading was also marked decrease from the previous week's revised total. Elsewhere, existing home sales in the U.S. spiked to their fastest rate since 2006 as the housing market boom accelerates, in part buoyed by an exodus to suburbs and record low mortgage rates. So there's a bunch of stuff going on with that here. It looks like the stocks are already starting to move, as we see up on the top of the ticker here. And they're going to come out and they're going to find a way to spend your money. I anticipate we see that Monday or Tuesday next week. So we'll watch for that. All right, let's do some debate coverage here because that was, by God, I hate to say these words out loud, but after the president's focus on federalism, and the fact that the states are different, something I have been preaching since I started this channel, something that I have been big on from the beginning of this, and something that you never hear coming out of the big names, that you never, ever, ever hear coming out of people at the top of the government. I might actually swallow my pride, suck it up, and vote for the guy. It might happen. I'm very, very close at this point. I've always said it's going to be a down ticket only vote for me this year, but that little sentence right there, the one that he put out there at the beginning, talking about the differences that the states needed for minimum wage, that might have tipped me over the edge for him. But let's see what the news has to say. From The Blaze. Post-debate media roundup, poor boys, Abraham Lincoln and Hunter Biden. I got a couple different roundups here. I've got the Blaze takeaways, the CNN takeaways, the Fox News takeaways, and the NBC takeaways from all this. So we'll go through these. We'll start with the independent media for once, because usually I'll start with CNN, but let's see what everybody's got to say from this. Starting with Carlos Garcia, the final debate before the 2020 presidential election saw the two candidates punching hard at each other, but neither struck a knockout blow. Most commentators thought NBC News moderator Kristen Welker did a much better job, and the muting of microphones seemed to aid in keeping the discussion civil and more intelligible. Here are some of the more interesting reactions to the debate from social media. Many people were glad that Hunter Biden was made an issue. Thank you, Andy McCarthy. Hunter Biden is a bigger story tomorrow because Biden preposterously claimed that the laptop was Russian disinformation. Biden is the big guy. If he wasn't, we'd have heard a defense. Megyn Kelly, not heard from Biden. Those emails are fake. That laptop isn't Hunter's. Dana Lash, Biden is challenging Trump to bring up Hunter right now. Let her rip, Tater Chip. While many thought it wasn't enough on the topic, Megyn Kelly, I'm sorry, but 30 seconds on Hunter allegations is a joke. Biden sarcastically referred to the president as Abraham Lincoln, and he didn't quite get it. Let's have a listen. Let's get the earbuds on and have a listen to what that had to say, because that was actually kind of funny.
And set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up questions.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So
Boom.
Don't give me the stuff about how you're this
Boom, right there. I'm not going to sit and listen to this whole clip just for the Abraham Lincoln line, but yeah, to sum that up towards the end, Trump was saying that he is the least racist person in the room, which, given the track record that Democrats have had this particular term, that actually may be fact-check true, just from pandering and trying to say, well, we have to prop this race up because they might not be able to do it on their own. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying these words, but this actually might be true. And then Biden came back and said, hey, Abraham Lincoln over here is the most racist person in the room. All right, let's keep going. Thanks to this exchange, Abraham Lincoln was trending on Twitter briefly, but unfortunately for Biden, rather. Twitter noticed he mistook the Poor Boys for what he meant, which was Proud Boys, a far-right organization. And by the way, my Twitter handle is not my Twitter handle, but my Twitter display name is now J. Edgar, the Poor Boy, because of that one. So come on over and check me out. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. Who are the Poor Boys? Is Poor Boys a sandwich? Yeah, that's true too. I'm naming the new band Abe Lincoln and the Poor Boys. Nice, Noam Bloom. Poor Boys versus Proud Boys. Even some of his critics admitted the president did better in the first debate. Or then in the first debate, I should say. John Harwood, stylistically, Trump was much, much better tonight. Substantively, characteristically weak, a high nonsense quotient. And then they had to admit that Biden issued an enormous lie during the debate. CNN fact-checked, so in this case, Trump is correct. Biden didn't make the anti-fracking comments during the Democratic primary in 2019 and 2020, and Trump was not lying.
Excuse me. President Trump once again went after Joe Biden on the issue of fracking to extract oil and gas. Let's listen.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want. And what about fracking?
All right,
Now
let me allow
about fracking.
Vice President Biden to respond.
I never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is he's flat lying.
Daniel, he then later on added that he had called for an end to fracking on federal land.
Yeah, so in this case, Trump is correct. Biden did make anti-fracking comments during the Democratic primary in 2019 and 2020, and Trump was not lying. Listen, for example, to something he said in 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to clarify, would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
Boom. Done. Gone. And that's the thing with fracking will come down to how much, if Biden gets to be the president, which God help us if he does. The thing with fracking is it will come down to whoever is handling him at the time, whoever owns him, because I know how deeply the opposition is to fracking from the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, especially here in Wisconsin. I mean, I've seen some of the progressives that went after Scott Walker when he was still the governor over here, and there was a crowd of them chanting. They were chanting to get rid of Scott Walker, but all of them were wearing shirts that say, "Frack off." The progressive wing of the Democrat Party is absolutely 100% opposed to fracking, partially because it's making fuel tycoons richer, and partially because it is a clean alternative instead of going back to the agrarian lifestyle that they want to see. And I mean, this goes along with everything else, like the windmills cause cancer comment. Well, here is reality. The fumes from the windmills, from making the windmills, I should say, not from the windmills themselves, but the fumes and everything else. One thing you have to consider about these big windmills that they're putting out there, yes, they look better to have a wind field than to have a massive smoke spewing or steam spewing power plant. Yes, they look much better than that. They look better than having a nuclear power plant, but with the amount of steel that goes in there, and the people that call for wind power have no idea how the steel manufacture process works. I know that because each one of those windmills could spin until the blades fall off, and they will never produce enough electricity and energy to offset the amount of oil and coal that it took to build the steel windmill. That's just it. All right, let's see what else they had to say. ABC News' John Carl said Trump didn't do any damage, but he didn't do enough to change the race either. Yeah, that's a little bit of bullshit, because he did a lot of stuff. He pulled me over almost to his side. CNN host Jake Tapper complimented Trump, then called him a liar.
It was definitely a more normal...
That's a 5-minute one. We're not going to do that one, because we've got enough stuff on here already, and some of us do still have to go to work at the end of the day, too. And that's not just me, that's you guys as well. So, those were their takeaways off of this here from the Blaze. I want to see what CNN had to say from some of this, if it ever catches up. There we go. And with a great big Borat advertisement up on the top that's probably sucking all the processor speed out of this poor little HP laptop. CNN says 7 takeaways from the final Trump-Biden debate. The second and final showdown between President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden looked much more like a normal debate than their first meeting, but it probably didn't do anything to change the race's trajectory. Amid a plethora of lies, Trump hammered Biden for failing to solve problems like institutional racism during his time in the Senate, and as vice president, casting him as a typical politician. Biden lambasted Trump on policy terms, criticizing his handling of the pandemic and his approach to healthcare, the economy, and immigration. But at times, the former vice president got personal, at one point calling Trump one of the most racist presidents we've ever had in modern history. Here are 7 takeaways from the last 2020 presidential debate. Number 1, Trump lowers the temperature. Trump entered Thursday's debate with near unanimous consent among his advisors. Cool down. None could say with any confidence whether he would take the advice. And he did. He was a lot cooler and calmer, and he gave Biden a lot of rope to hang himself, in which he did. Very, very much so, he hung himself. And you could watch either the amphetamines or the cocaine or whatever the hell they had him strung up on. You could just watch that failing in real time. You can't tell me that you didn't see that. Let's see. Trump's wishful thinking, Trump's very first answer, which was meant to state how he would lead during the next stage of the coronavirus, relied instead on looking backward and wishful thinking about a vaccine. And like many of his answers over the rest of the evening, Trump's central argument seemed to be that things could be a lot worse. They could. We were talking Spanish flu level numbers. Millions of people dead. And we didn't get that. Number 3, Biden forecasts a dark winter. Biden offered a much bleaker view of the virus, predicting that a dark winter is coming as he accused Trump of denying responsibility for its spread in the United States and squandering months that he said should have been used to accelerate production of protective medical equipment and prepare schools and business reopening. We're creating protective equipment left and right. You can walk into any store right now and buy a box of masks, which is supposed to be the be-all, end-all for protective equipment. Our automakers were making ventilators to get out there and get people protected up, to get the doctors and the hospitals protected up. We have the protective material. Biden was much more measured than Trump in discussing how he'd handle the virus. He said he would establish normal standards for opening schools and businesses and would seek stimulus money to prepare them until the Supreme Court comes down and says, the 9th and 10th Amendments said that you will not do that. Biden did, though, deliver a unifying moment as he criticized Trump for laying the blame on Democratic governors for the virus spreading in their states. Really? Because the red state governors seem to have it under control. And this was the thing. This really fucking boiled my blood. Biden is coming out and saying, I'm going to be the president. I mean, this president here, he sees red states and blue states, and he doesn't care about the blue states. He only cares about the red states. And come on, man, I'm going to be everybody's president. Yeah, that's going to cost you votes among the progressive wing that are trying to get Dianne Feinstein, one of the most progressive members of the Senate, on the chopping block because she dared to reach across the aisle and give Lindsey Graham a hug. That is not going to play well with the progressives that have spent the last 4 years trying to make everybody believe that any Trump supporter, any Republican for that matter, is a member of a demon worship cult and the demon's name is Donald Trump. How is that going to play? All right, let's keep going here. Trump dusts off his old 2016 playbook. With nearly 50 million votes already cast and time almost out to reverse his polling fortunes, Trump resorted to the tactics that helped him win 4 years ago. He tried to cast Biden as a typical politician, just like he did Hillary Clinton. He repeatedly pointed out that Biden was in elected office for 47 years, blaming Biden for failing to solve the problems like systemic racism. Where's the lie? Where is the lie in that? 47 years. We have institutional and systemic racism. Joe Biden, you are the institution and the system. 47 years. And of course, solving any of these problems would mean that you can't run on these problems anymore. Biden hits his policy marks. The former vice president's most effective moments Thursday night might have been his evisceration of Trump's economic, healthcare, and immigration policy. Really? Did you watch the same debate that I did? Those policy-focused moments underscored a grim reality for Trump. Though Congress could stand in the way, Biden is campaigning on a series of detailed policy proposals and frequently explains what they mean to average Americans. Trump, though, has repeatedly failed to detail what he'd seek to do if he wins a second term. Biden hammered Trump for seeking to have the Supreme Court undo the Affordable Care Act, but he can't do that, and its protections for those with pre-existing conditions. A pool of Americans that Biden pointed out will soon include those who had COVID-19. COVID-19 is not a pre-existing condition. That is a lie. That is a lie on top of lies. If COVID-19 is a pre-existing condition, then so is the common cold, and nobody in this country is eligible for health care. And then, of course, Biden detailed his proposal to allow Americans to buy into public health insurance and introduced a new phrase to describe it: Bidencare. A question on the talk goes unanswered. Trump and Biden were both asked a provocative and important question about race. Could they understand why black parents give their children the talk about how to handle encounters with law enforcement? Trump's instinct was to insist that he's done more for African Americans than any previous president since Abraham Lincoln, and to attack Biden for his record, including on a crime bill from the 1990s. Trump didn't specifically address the question, and instead he continued to insist that he's done more for African Americans than any president since Abraham Lincoln, and to attack Biden for his record, including a crime bill from the 1990s. "I'm the least racist person in this room," Trump said. Biden, meanwhile, sought to cast Trump as stoking racial divisions, one of the driving arguments of his entire campaign. "Abraham Lincoln here, man, he's one of the most racist presidents we've ever had in modern history," he said, sarcastically making reference to Trump's previous claim. "This guy has a dog whistle as big as a foghorn." Biden says he would transition from the oil industry, and that ended his presidential hopes right there. I have something specific on that one, so we're going to walk away from that for just a second. But I want to talk about the talk for just a second, because this is something. Well, I never had to have the talk with my kids because they're white and they're privileged, and I never had to have that talk. Well, I'm pretty fucking white here, guys. I've had that talk. You get pulled over, hands at 10 and 2, don't reach for the glove box. I have had that talk. A lot of middle Americans have had that talk. And you know what? When I got picked up in Massachusetts, I was heading north to go look at a prospective better job, because the job that I had at the time sucked. And I was heading north on 495 to go and check out this other prospective job, and I got pulled over. And as soon as I got pulled over, as soon as I was off to the side of the road, I pulled out a cigarette and lit it and sat there, hands on the wheel, waiting. And the Mass State police officer walked up to the side of my truck, hand on his gun, back to the truck, came up to the window, and I calmly looked at him, cigarette still in my mouth, and said, "You expecting something to happen?" So, yeah, don't tell me about the talk, because I've had the talk, and I will have the talk with my children as well. All right, so that's what CNN had to say about this. Here is what Fox had to say about the same debate, which is probably going to be much, much more glowing. Fact check, I have not read this previously. But I also have no reaction going on here. There we go. Final Trump-Biden presidential debate. Top 5 moments from Tyler Olson. The final debate of the 2020 presidential election between Trump and Biden involved heated but substantive exchanges between the bitter rivals on issues of the coronavirus and the economy. It also addressed the latest bombshell to rock the 2020 campaign, allegations that Biden was involved in the foreign business dealings of his son, Hunter. The Democrat and his campaign have denied this. No, they haven't. They just said, "Give me back the laptop," and don't talk about it. They have not denied this in any stretch of the imagination. Excuse me. Let's scroll down here or see if my browser's locked up, which it kind of seems like it is. We might have to do a bit more on-air production. There it goes. All right, here are the top 5 moments of the presidential debate. The Hunter story. Allegations have surfaced in recent days that Biden was involved with his son Hunter's foreign business dealings, even allegedly profiting from those deals, though the Democrat and his campaign has denied this. The New York Post broke the story last week of purported emails showing Biden was discussed by his son and business partners, but in recent days, evidence of this has come out independent of the sketchy laptop provided to the sketchy laptop. This is supposed to be the pro-Trump network, and I mean, we all know what their number is. We all know that it isn't, but it's not a sketchy laptop. They haven't denied it. The bill of sale is signed by Hunter Biden. We know that it's there. We know what's in there. They just don't want people to talk about it. Provided at the Post by Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani, a business partner of Hunter Biden's, even gave an on-camera statement attesting to Joe Biden's involvement. Further reports from the Wall Street Journal, however, has cast doubt on the role of Joe Biden in Hunter Biden's ventures, specifically in China. The issue didn't immediately come up at the debate, but when it did, Trump slammed Biden for the horrible emails, while Biden forcefully denied making any money from foreign sources. All of those emails, those horrible emails, of the kind of money that you were taught raking in, you and your family and Joe, you were the vice president when some of this was happening, and it shouldn't have ever happened, Trump said. I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Biden responded, I've not taken a penny from any foreign source over my life. Turning the attack to Trump, Biden added, we learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China. We knew that. We knew that he did business in China. That's not a secret. That's right out in the open. He's got a tower in China. He's got property there. He's got a golf course there. I've released all my tax returns, 22 years of my tax returns, Biden said. You've not released a single solitary year of your tax returns. What are you hiding? No, he didn't release it because your buddies over at the New York Times did it for him and then lied about it on top of it. Holy shit. All right, so that is what happened over on Hunter's. We are running a little bit of lag here, like a lot of lag over here on the laptop. So we might have to cut this episode short, and I don't know why. I don't know what is dragging my processor down, but it is on the processor. I'm looking at the performance monitor. We might be in for a hard restart here, but it might just be the ad blocker as well. So let's keep going as much as we can. On immigration, another contentious moment in the debate came as the candidates sparred over immigration policy. Trump attacked Biden for the Obama-Biden administration's catch-and-release policy, in which illegal immigrants were allowed to walk free ahead of their court dates after being arrested for being in the country illegally. Conservatives have said that allows those immigrants to miss their court dates and disappear into the country. Biden, meanwhile, attacked Trump on the current administration's family separation policy, which before it ended in 2018 was highly controversial, and also came under the Obama-Biden administration. That's something else we need to pay attention to. Parents, kids were ripped from their arms and were separated. Those kids are alone, nowhere else to go, Biden said of the policy. Trump replied by pointing out that the infrastructure for many of the controversies on the border in the past 4 years was carried over from the Obama-Biden administration. Who built the cages, Joe? Trump said. On catch and release, Biden disputed that most illegal immigrants did not show up for their court dates. Trump said that they largely did not. Those with the lowest IQ, they might come back, Trump added. You have 525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents, Biden replied, bringing up the family separation policy again, which also came under the Obama administration. Come on. Come on. I don't know what is going on with this. I really don't. All right, minimum wage. This was the big one. This was the one that tipped me over into the Trump camp because of the way that they handled federalism. After Welker asked Biden about whether increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour might hurt small businesses, Biden appeared not to understand the question and advocated for small business bailouts. All right, I got to figure out what is eating my processor in this particular one. It is, I mean, I can see it over there on the performance monitor. It is my browser. But I've never had this problem with this browser before. All right, let's get into this. Let's work our way through this and see how far we can get before this just completely craps out on us. And if it just drops, we'll throw some F's in the chat. We're going to have to bail them out too, Biden said. We should be bailing them out now. These small businesses, we got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. Trump shot back that the minimum wage should be a state option because Alabama is different from New York. New York is different from Vermont, which was the selling point for me right there. Because it should be a state issue. So should 3/4 of what comes out of the federal government. I would go as far as 90%, but I know that there are people out there, and we can have a compromise. But 75% of what comes out of the federal government should be handled at the state level because Alabama is different from New York. New York is different from Vermont. Thank you, Mr. President. Biden replied, "No one should work 2 jobs, be below poverty, and there's no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business." Oh, but there is. And not only that, but even the big names like your McDonald's and people like that start going out of business and start pushing people out of their, well, they don't go out of business, but they start pushing people out of their restaurants. Instead, having the order kiosk instead. Race relations. Biden was at his most effective Thursday while delivering one-liners, either attacking Trump or highlighting what kind of president he could be. Among them were comments that he would shut down the virus, not the country, and that Trump should have been, instead of the sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi on a coronavirus deal. He was negotiating with her, trying to get a bill that actually addressed the issue and not be laden with pork. There were also such one-liners on other topics, including Biden's plan to be an American president, but the most memorable came during an exchange on race relations. He pours fuel on every single racist fire, Biden said. He started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of these Mexican rapists. He banned Muslims because they're Muslims. Once again, fact check false. This has been debunked numerous times for people. Biden added, "The guy's got a dog whistle as big as a foghorn." I think we might be at the end of this laptop's life. I think that might be the end of this. All right, that's what we have off Fox News. We're going to keep moving along off of this because that's all we're doing right now is just waiting for the laptop to catch up. All right, let's see what CNBC has to say off of this. GOP pollster says Trump won the final debate, but Biden won the war, from Matthew J. Belvedere. President Trump won the final debate against Democrat Joe Biden, but that's not going to be enough to get him reelected, Republican pollster and strategist Frank Luntz told CNBC on Friday. You've got to give Trump a minor victory because he'll bring some undecided voters home. It'll close the race a little bit, but in the end, I think Joe Biden won the war, Luntz said in a Squawk Box interview, predicting that Trump, with 11 days until the November 3rd election and more than 47 million votes already cast, does not have enough time to overcome Biden's national swing state polling leads. Luntz said that even if the polls are wrong, as they were in 2016 when Trump pulled off an upset victory over Hillary Clinton, it's virtually impossible for the president to win. Luntz noted that the polls 4 years ago were only off a few points, but Biden's lead in the 2020 race is wide enough to overcome any margin of error. Luntz also said that pollsters like himself have been much more cautious during this campaign cycle. That might have been Fox News was doing it here, because once I got off that webpage, now this is running like lightning again. Just remember, folks, there's a PayPal in the description below. And if you want to throw a couple bucks towards the new computer fund, that would be really, really helpful. All right. Let's see. Luntz said the candidates' answer to the final question, what they would say in their inaugural address to the Americans who didn't vote for them, were indicative of why Biden looks to be unstoppable. Okay. I was watching his medicine fail on stage. Trump went negative, arguing why Biden would be bad for the country, rather than really answering the question. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very sad day for the country, the president said. Biden went in the opposite direction, saying, I'm an American president. I represent all of you. Whether you voted for me or against me, I'm going to make sure that you're representative. I'm going to give you hope. Luntz said that Biden's positive approach, compared with Trump's forceful but negative tone, is the reason the former vice president's message appears to be winning hearts and minds of American voters. All right, so that's the takeaways that came off of this here. Let's keep going down. I got just a few more talking about this. From the Daily Wire, big mistake. Biden says he'll transition from the oil industry. Twitter explodes. Might have sealed the deal. From Paul Bois. Yeah, I'm pretty positive that that little remark might have ended Biden's presidential hopefuls. I think that might have killed it right then and there, because that's going to put a lot of people out of work. That's going to take a lot of money away from him. I know a lot of people have come out and voted early, and yes, it's going to get the progressives up there jumping up and down and screaming, we're going to fix the economy, we're going to cure it all. But in reality, a lot of that money is going to people like Joe Biden from companies like ExxonMobil, who can't go out and buy a person like Trump. But now he's going to come back and put them out of business, or try and force them to change the way that they do their energy policy. That's not going to play well for them in the free market. Let's see what Paul Bois has to say. During Thursday night's presidential debate, former Vice President Joe Biden stepped into the political landmine that will certainly cost him with working-class Americans when he pledged to transition from the oil industry throughout his administration. Yeah, that's not auto-playing good. Why would he close down the oil industry? Trump asked. Why would you close down the oil industry? I would transition from the oil industry, yes, Biden responded. That's a big statement, Trump shot back. It's a big statement because the oil industry pollutes significantly, Biden emphasized, later adding, it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. Trump won't give federal subsidies to solar and wind. Why are we giving it to the oil industry? We shouldn't be giving federal subsidies to anything. The free market will sort it out on its own. We actually do give it to solar and wind, and that's maybe the biggest statement in terms of business, because basically what he's saying is that he's going to destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma? Trump concluded. And then, yes, Greg Abbott is out here saying that Biden wants to transition away from the oil industry. He just killed paycheck earned by hardworking families in Texas. Joe wants to transition away from Texas. Remember that on Election Day. God damn it. That's not what I wanted to do.
Oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the
falls-
oil
By
industry?
the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop,
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
Oh, I see.
Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement.
Yeah, just let him talk.
Because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President.
Will you remember that, Texas and Oklahoma? The worst. He's going to transition at the worst. The Twitter reactions to Biden's statement were swift and fierce for what might have been arguably the biggest mistake of the evening. And that's saying something. That was a high bar to clear. The Trump campaign is going to roll out a massive ad buy in Pennsylvania with that idiotic Biden answer about oil, unless someone shows me a map with a path to victory for Biden when he loses Florida, which he will, and Pennsylvania. That might have sealed the deal tonight, tweeted Jesse Kelly. Joe Biden just said he would transition from the oil industry, that means kill the oil industry. The moderator's response, "Why would you do that?" was hilarious. She sounded confused. Why would he do this to his campaign? His far-left plan slipped out. Massive error by Joe. And think about everything else that goes along with the oil industry. That's oil. That's electricity, because they have to go out to renewable energy. That's automotives. Newsom is saying all electric cars by 2035. And you know what? He doesn't have the infrastructure to do it. And now you're going to put additional strain on that infrastructure by taking away the fossil fuels for the power plants that they do have without giving nuclear as an option? Are you out of your mind? Yeah, I can't believe he could win the presidency after doing that. All right, let's keep going here from Fox. We'll see if it's Fox that's actually dragging me down here, because I think it might be. Get the monitor up here and see what, it might be just Fox News is dragging this down at this point, because I just watched the processor jump as soon as I brought up the Fox News tab. Trump's debate mic appeared to cut off during healthcare answer. From David Arrow. President Trump appeared to have his microphone cut off for a brief moment while he was explaining his healthcare plan during the final presidential debate in Nashville, Tennessee on Thursday night. "We've done an incredible job on healthcare, and we're going to do even better," Trump said before his mouth continued to move, but his voice was no longer heard. NBC News correspondent Kristen Welker, the debate moderator, then directed the next question to Democratic nominee Joe Biden following a short pause. Let's have a listen to what that sounded like.
"We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better."
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you, your health care.
"We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better."
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is
better. And we're going to do even better.
Okay.
Job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Yeah, they cut him off, and you could hear the echo coming up out of Biden's microphone and Kristen Welker's microphone, but yeah, they definitely cut him off. After the first Trump-Biden debate in Cleveland on September 29th was plagued by interruptions and insults, the majority by the president, the Commission on Presidential Debates announced a change to the scheduled format. Each candidate was afforded 2 uninterrupted minutes to speak at the beginning of each 15-minute topic, with the microphone cut for the candidate who was not speaking during that time. President Trump is committed to debating Joe Biden regardless of last-minute rule changes from the Bias Commission in their latest attempt to provide advantage to their favored candidate, the president's campaign manager, Billy Stepien, said prior to the debate. And I don't know, because I didn't catch it myself, but one of the things that the R-rated conservative caught while we were sitting there having the conversation about this while they were talking was he did think that Biden was able to talk while his mic was supposed to be cut. I didn't catch that myself in my ears, but he caught that and he pointed it out. So at some point, I'm actually going to go back and see if I can find a rebroadcast of this and see if I can catch that for myself. But if that's true, then yes, they were doing biased, partial work towards Trump. So I don't know if that actually happened or not, but we will see. All right, let's keep going here from The Blaze. Biggest lie of the night, Joe Biden says no one lost their health insurance under Obamacare. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health care, you can keep your health care. But, I mean, even Snopes said that was a lie. All right. From Chris Pandolfo, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden told a brazen lie about Obamacare Thursday evening during the final presidential debate in Nashville, Tennessee, claiming that no one lost their private health insurance plans under the Affordable Care Act. President Trump attacked Biden's health care plan, accusing the Democrat nominee plan of being socialized medicine that would terminate 180 million private insurance plans. In response, Biden said that if the Supreme Court declares Obamacare unconstitutional, he will pass new health care legislation with public option. He declared his support for private health insurance, arguing that a public option would increase competition by giving private health insurance plans something to compete against. Then he told a whopper, "The reason I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance," Biden said. "Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance plans unless they chose they wanted to go something else." Biden's claim is demonstrably false. After the ACA took effect in 2013, more than 5 million Americans received cancellation letters from their insurance companies. But you never hear about those. You just hear about the 20 million that possibly could have or could lose their insurance under a repeal of the ACA and insurance companies having to sell insurance back to you at some point. President Obama's promise that if you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan was rated as PolitiFact's Lie of the Year in 2013. So this fall, as cancellation letters were going out to approximately 4 million Americans, the public realized Obama's breezy assurances were wrong, PolitiFact wrote. In fact, NBC News reported in 2013 that the Obama administration knew that millions of Americans would lose their health insurance under Obamacare, while the Affordable Care Act had provisions that allowed for some health insurance policies to be grandfathered in, meaning consumers could keep their plans even if they didn't meet the essential benefits mandates required by Obamacare. The provision was written so narrowly that many of the plans didn't qualify. Yeah. I don't know how Biden walks away from this. Got one here from Politico, a tweet. "We had a Republican Congress," Biden says of the inability to do more while he was VP. That's an interesting line from a candidate that has said that he thinks that some Republicans in Congress will work with him if Trump loses, says Holly Otterbein. Now, this is a quite lengthy live analysis article, so we're not going to go through that. But yes, that was another excuse that Biden came up with this. I mean, we couldn't do anything under Obama because we had a Republican Congress. You had a mandate for the first 2 years. I think you had a mandate for the first 4 years, didn't you? At least in one chamber. The last 4 years, yes, I will give you that. But you had a mandate for at least 2 years of the Obama administration. House, Senate, and White House. So that's a bullshit lie right there. And furthermore, yes, that covers maybe 6 years of the Obama administration. What about the other 41 years where you were in the Senate? Once again, you are part of the system and you've been doing this forever. And one of the things that politicians love to do is make big promises and then never keep them, because then they can keep making the same promises year after year on the campaign trail. All right, from Fox News. Yeah, it's definitely that website. Biden shocks debate viewers with bizarre Hitler reference, from Brian Flood. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden shocked viewers Thursday with a bizarre reference to Adolf Hitler during the final presidential debate. Trump said he's had a civil relationship with North Korea Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un. "We're not in a war. We've got a good. We're not in a war. We have a good relationship," the president said. You know what? Let's not even dick around with this. Let's just listen to it.
North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship
Trump,
with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to.
That's like saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on.
Minutes later, the name of the murderous leader of Germany's Nazi Party was trending on social media as dumbfounded viewers couldn't believe Biden referenced one of history's most infamous dictators. Levin, did Biden just say we had a have a good relationship with Hitler at one point? No, we did not, Joe. Ben Dominic says, I would like to fact check on we had a good relationship with Hitler. John Miller says, sorry, when did we have a good relationship with Hitler? That is so ahistorical. Kaylin Dorr says, so Welker's just going to let that Hitler reference slide. Dinesh says, we had a good relationship with Hitler. Yes, he really said this. Yeah, and we didn't. We just didn't want to go over there and expend the resources until the Japanese came over and started launching planes into Pearl Harbor. This is painful to go back over the second time. It really is. I can't believe some of the stuff that's going on with this. All right, let's keep going here from the Daily Wire. President Trump on the pandemic. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe. From Tim Pierce. President Trump slammed Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden for staying noticeably absent from the campaign trail amid the pandemic. Just weeks away from the election, Trump and Biden, the former vice president under the Obama administration, met on stage in Nashville for the second day. Wow, why am I so tongue-tied today? Trump and Biden, the former vice president under the Obama administration, met on a stage in Nashville for the second and final presidential debate of the 2020 campaign. Biden said Trump downplayed the outbreaks of the coronavirus and has stated that the pandemic will be over soon. I didn't say over soon. I said we're learning to live with it, Trump said, asserting that Biden had mischaracterized his comments. Trump went on to say that Biden's way of thinking about the pandemic is divorced from reality and that most people cannot afford to pause life until a vaccine is out. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up, Trump said. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money in some place, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in a basement or a beautiful room, the most beautiful room in the White House, and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. Biden has remained noticeably cloistered in his Delaware home for many days throughout the campaign in the run-up to Thursday night's debate. Biden largely remained in his home ostensibly to debate prep for 5 days. Calling the lid, not doing any more campaigning. Trump's jab at Biden's money may have been a veiled reference to numerous overseas business dealings made by Biden's son Hunter that have received renewed scrutiny in the recent days after the New York Post published emails last week, reportedly from Hunter's laptop. The emails indicate that the former vice president may have known more about Hunter's dealings than Joe Biden has claimed. No, he's in the basement. He's in the worst basement. I have the best basements because I have the best property, okay? But I can't stay in the basement. Unlike Sleepy Joe, he's going to stay in the basement. Calling a lid. I'm going to call it a lid. All right. That is that here. I've got one from Fox Business. Let's see how bad that lags down the laptop. Oh, there it is. An opinion piece over there.
An untold comeback story has emerged of the mid-caps of the S&P 400 with the hard...
Let's get rid of that. God damn it. No wonder this thing's running so damn slow. All right. At final presidential debate, Biden offers stunning misunderstanding of how economy actually works. From Andy Puzder. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden spent 3 days locked in his house this week, avoiding media scrutiny in intense preparation for that. It's the question that begs to be answered after Thursday night's final presidential debate in Nashville. You would think that with all the preparation, Biden would have had the facts at his fingertips, and I don't mean in his notes, but again and again, Joe got basic facts wrong as he faced off against President Trump on the debate stage at Belmont University. He continually insisted that the president doesn't have a plan on the coronavirus pandemic, even as he listed things that Trump administration has already done months ago to address the virus and without the benefit of hindsight. As has been the case for months, Biden was unable to come up with anything that he would do or have done that the Trump administration isn't already doing. And it got worse. Biden, the man who helped open the American market to cheap Chinese goods, and as a member of the Senate was a leader of the effort to get China into the World Trump Organization, I think that's World Trade Organization, accused the president of ratcheting up how our trade deficit with China. That's not just wrong, it's the opposite of the truth. Trump's trade policy reversed the deficits created by the policies Biden supported both in the Senate and the White House. Even the Washington Post and the New York Times couldn't let this slide, as the Post bluntly stated, Biden is wrong. So, yeah, he doesn't know pandemic response. He doesn't know the economy. He went up and lied consistently throughout the debate. And he still wants to be the president. All right, let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, Chris Wallace says he's jealous of moderator Kristen Welker. Wish I had that debate. From Amanda Prestigiacomo. Fox News anchor Chris Wallace said he was jealous of Thursday night debate moderator, NBC News journalist Kristen Welker, who received generally positive reviews for her performance. Wallace received backlash from both the left and the right for his fumbled debate moderating last month. Well, first of all, I'm jealous, Wallace said on Fox News Airwaves post-debate. I would like to have been able to moderate that debate to get in a real exchange of views instead of hundreds of interruptions, he said, adding that it was overall a good substantive debate with slight Biden-leaning bias. Wallace, who was hit by Republicans and Democrats alike for allowing chaos to ensue during his debate moderating, seemed to suggest that Welker was helped by a new rule from Commission on Presidential Debates, which allows for the muting of former VP Joe Biden and President Donald Trump's mics for their first 2-minute responses. However, journalist Brit Hume suggested in the same segment that it seemed Welker did not have to use the mute button at all. Back in September, Wallace took heat for his seeming intervention to chide Trump when Biden was feeling the heat or leveling insults at the president. Even a colleague of Wallace's, Fox News' Brian Kilmeade, publicly dinged the moderating. Why is Joe Biden allowed to interrupt? Donald Trump is not, posted Fox and Friends host. I'm jealous because they got she got the mute button and I didn't get the mute button, and Mr. President, why is it that you won't denounce white supremacy? And Mr. Biden, do you like cupcakes in chocolate or vanilla? All right, that is that. I've got just a few more here. After this little bit of a botching of a contemporary, I do apologize for the low production value of this particular episode, but we do have just a few more to come here. And then at the end of the show, we are going to read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat for the week and for the day. And it looks like Miami had a question for me in there, so I'll address that when we get out to the end here. But hang tight with us for just a couple minutes longer as we go along with this, as we finish this out here. And if you are just lurking right now and you want to get your comments in, make sure that you get your comments in, because I can't read your chat, or I can't read your name rather, unless you put your chat in the live chat. All right, one of the worst takes from the night over on Twitter, and this poor woman is getting ratioed to the point that I might actually open this up and her account might be deleted. But we'll see what happens up off of this. I didn't go to use the archive version. I did archive this tweet, by the way, just in case. But Darshun Kendrick, who is a member, I believe, of Georgia's House, says, did @Real Donald Trump just say 545 kids they can't find their parents came over through cartels or coyotes? How the hell does a coyote bring a whole human across the border? Lord, stop talking. And expectedly, this woman got absolutely ratioed on this because Yeah, at this point, you can't be that dumb. You just can't. Maybe the dingo ate your baby. I like that. She doesn't understand the fact that the coyotes is a group of human smugglers. And a lot of people came out and told her this. And, I mean, she's arrogant, too, off of this. Dave Caldwell says, and you're a corporate attorney? And she says, yes, and a damn good one at that. What's your point? Which also got ratioed to within inches of her life. A picture of an actual coyote carrying a baby. And a lot of the liberals are the dumbest people on earth. You cannot be this stupid. Yeah, I can't believe this tweet is still up. I really can't. The Foo got on here. You're kidding, right? She was voted into office, sadly. So yeah, that was one of the worst takes of the night on all of this here. But a fun one. And that's what we have on the debate. Honestly, last takeaways from the debate for me was the fact I looked at everything through this. With the federalism, which, I mean, that's a niche market for very, very few people out there, people like me. I actually might go over to the Trump train for this election. I voted for him in 2016 because I knew what I was getting with Hillary, and I didn't know what I was getting with Trump. So I was willing to take the risk on him. And for the most part, it was a good risk. I mean, he renewed the Patriot Act. That's been my biggest sticking point with him. And if I do leave the top of the ticket blank at this point, it's going to be because he renewed the Patriot Act. But the federalism comments won me over. Absolutely. And I've got a lot of thinking to do in the next few days as to whether or not I can do this. It was calm. Biden put his foot in his mouth. Trump gave Biden the rope to hang himself with. And I forget what it was. I believe it was on the climate change question when Biden said that he was going to shut down the oil industry and end fracking. Biden said, I forget what he said, and I didn't get the video clip of it. But he said something, and he completely came out and said something that was damning to his campaign. And then he sat there, and he waited for a rebuttal from Trump, because Trump had been giving him a rebuttal throughout the entire debate. He sat there and he waited for that rebuttal, and it never came. The president knew how to get Biden to expect certain things. And then once he was expecting that rebuttal, in order to take the attention away from whatever dumb thing that Biden had said, it never came. Biden got toasted in this debate. And we could see his medication failing in real time. We could just see it was going away. He was starting to stutter more, which I have no room to talk after today's contemporary, but he was starting to stutter more. He was starting to lose his train of thought. He was screwing up numbers. And he was condemning himself with his own record. Anybody who votes for Biden knows at this point that they're voting for a placeholder to just get the progressive wing in. I can't see anybody who's looking at Biden and saying, you know what, that guy's going to make a good president. All right. Let's do the couple other news stories that I had for the week here. I've got one here from The Blaze, commentary. Hey, suburban women, you're being played. Trump isn't your problem. We're going to go briefly on this because it's an op-ed, not green check verified, but this comes from Steve Deese. This week in the cesspool of utter madness that is swallowing up a once great nation, a former partner of Hunter Biden has confirmed that the drug addict was inserted into high places within the Chinese and Ukrainian business circles in order to trade access to then Vice President Joe Biden for cash. You may remember that China is the country that poisoned the entire world with the coronavirus earlier this year, and Ukraine as the nation used to as a foil to impeach Donald Trump. But sure, suburban women, Trump is your problem. Speaking of the coronavirus, a Danish newspaper has reported that 3 of the largest scientific journals in the world have refused to publish for the purpose of peer review, aka scrutiny, the first major scientific study investigating the efficiency of masks as a deterrent for viral spread. Damn, Fauci would be proud. That's some quality memory holding right there. Maybe the mask study will find Sweden down at the bottom of the upside down. But sure, suburban women, Trump is your problem. In other memory hole news, Twitter blocked the accounts of Trump coronavirus task members Dr. Scott Atlas, the New York Post, the the press secretary for the President of the United States, the Babylon Bee, the Senate Judiciary Committee for Crimes Against Humanity, such as free speech, funny jokes about ducks, accurate medical expertise about actual journalism, and uncovering government corruption. But sure, suburban women, Trump is your problem. You know whose Twitter account hasn't been blocked? Jeffrey Toobin, one of CNN's most celebrated progressive propagandists. He was caught masturbating while on a Zoom call with his colleagues. Not only was he not fired, but multiple newspapers wrote editorials defending his actions as a commonplace, and that Toobin was being unfairly maligned due to prudishness and spite. And all of this after Toobin was previously exposed for bullying a colleague's daughter, whom he impregnated into getting an abortion, then refusing to pay child support. #MeToo used to be an actual thing, right? Darn memory hole again, but sure, suburban women, Trump is your problem. And just the ones that I read here are absolutely great points about what has happened in this nation. What's scary in this nation? What could happen under a Kamala Harris presidency? But sure, Trump is your problem. Yeah, he says mean things. And that's been something that I have been harping on from the beginning of this little experiment that we had with a reality TV star as a president, is you should not be looking to the presidency for your morality. Look to yourself for morality. Look inside. Let the government take care of interstate commerce and foreign diplomacy. Look to yourself for morality. All right. On other coronavirus news, the FDA has approved Gilead's remdesivir as a coronavirus treatment. From Berkeley Loveless Jr. Excuse me, I've got hiccups now too. On top of every other thing that could have gone wrong with this stream, now I've got the hiccups. The Food and Drug Administration on Thursday approved Gilead Sciences' antiviral drug remdesivir as a treatment for the coronavirus. In May, the FDA granted the drug an emergency use authorization, allowing hospitals and doctors to use it on patients hospitalized with the disease, even though the medication had not been formally approved by the agency. The intravenous drug has helped shorten recovery time of some hospitalized COVID-19 patients. It was one of the drugs used to treat President Trump, who tested positive for the virus earlier this month. The drug will be used for COVID-19 patients at least 12 years old and requiring hospitalization, Gilead said. Remdesivir is now the first and only fully approved treatment in the U.S. for COVID-19, which has infected more than 41.3 million people worldwide and killed more than 1 million, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. Shares of Gilead were up more than 5% in after-hours trading. So we actually have a treatment at this point that's approved by the FDA. And I would love to see how this gets spun at this point. Oh, Trump's he's got a controlling share, don't you know? He's going to make money off this. That's why he pushed for it to get out there. He's going to look at all the money he's going to make. He's enriching himself with the presidency, with the FDA. Look at this. I can't wait to see the spin on this. And I haven't seen one for the most part yet, and CNBC would be the first one to spin it if they could. But yes, we actually do have a treatment now at this point for COVID-19, which means that, honestly, it's going to start coming on the downswing no matter what happens in a couple weeks. All right, and the last one that we have here for news before we read the names of everybody who's chatting in the live chat both now and throughout the week. From the Daily Wire, Republicans derail Democrats' Barrett boycott plans, send Chuck Schumer scrambling, from Emily Zanotti. Because that's the other thing that we missed in the light of all of the debate news that we did today, is that they had the procedural vote on Amy Coney Barrett yesterday, and she is going to a full Senate vote on Monday. Democrat plans to derail a Senate Judiciary Committee vote approving Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation to the Supreme Court ended in shambles Thursday after Republicans moved up the vote by several hours, leaving Democrats scrambling to respond. The vote to recommend Barrett be confirmed to the Supreme Court was scheduled for 1 p.m., but after learning that Democrats on the panel planned to boycott the hearing, they moved up the vote to 9 a.m. Barrett's nomination was passed out of committee on a party line vote, 12-0. Typically, a Democrat boycott might have forced the Judiciary Committee out of session since it prevented the formation of a quorum. But Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham allowed for a last-minute rule change, giving Republicans the power to pass Barrett out of committee on a simple majority rule. Democrats instead were limited to just one show of force against the vote. Large photos of individuals they claim will be detrimentally affected if Barrett votes to eliminate the ACA. One possible but unlikely outcome of the case of the Supreme Court will hear in early November, challenging the ACA's constitutionality. And once again, we don't know we don't even know what the case is at this point, do we? Whether it's constitutional or not, what's going to happen from this? We don't know anything about this, but they seem to know exactly how Amy Coney Barrett is going to rule without having the facts in front of her. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who masterminded the boycott plan, was left to hold a planned press conference announcing the boycott at 10 a.m., an hour after Republicans had finished voting. Democrats will not lend a single ounce of legitimacy to this sham vote in the judiciary, Schumer said as he hastily pulled together a presser at Capitol steps. The nomination of ACB is the most illegitimate process I have ever witnessed in the Senate, and her potential confirmation will have dire consequences for the Senate, for the Supreme Court, and for our entire country for generations to come. Schumer, who had been working to roadblock Barrett's nomination for the last week, added, "The Senate Republican majority is conducting the most rushed, the most partisan, and the least legitimate nomination to the Supreme Court in our nation's history." So, yeah, this is going to happen. They changed the rules, and they're going to come to regret it. But once again, the hardest part to this is the fact that without an odd number of justices on the Supreme Court coming into the election, we're sitting at a point where we actually could see a constitutional crisis. And nobody knows who the president could be come January, and possibly, in a very, very eerie thought, a President Pelosi, because of the chain of ascension. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the constitutional mandate is for this, for a challenged election, because we've never had one before. And it's going to go to the court. Mark my words, it's going to go to the court. It's going to be for them to decide. And I don't care how they decide. I just want to make sure that they can decide in a way that's not going to lead to the constitutional crisis. All right. We're going to end that here for news, and we're going to read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat for the week and for the day, and finally end this one that was riddled with technical errors. And I'm going to go and figure out why my ad blocker is gone, because I've got a feeling that that is a big part of the problem that we're seeing right now, because those ads, they do eat up a whole bunch of memory. But we'll start throughout the week. From Tuesday, we had Elephant Man, Ron Helton, Miami 1984. Ken Divilal 97 popped in, that was a new name, and Saint. On Monday we had Wolf 336, Spartan 0000, Superior 1, Miami. I had a Breno OM, that was a new name in here. We had a Mr. Boo Radley over on the Twitch side, and Ron Helton. On Wednesday we had Spartan, Elephant Man, Dabba Cannabis, and Wolf 336. On Thursday we had Ron Helton, Spartan Subhuman, Poops Knives, that was a new name, and Poops Knives was also there to come and hang out with us for the debate stream last night, so thanks for that. Thanks for the follow. We had Miami 1984, and we had Wolf 336. Today, opening this back up over to the top, let's bring this over here so you guys can even see your names up in here. We had a busy day, that's for sure. We had Miami 1984, Spartan, Superior 1, Wolf 336 with the stickers, Black Crime, Happy Friday. Bitcoin is apparently at 12,967.33. Thank you for the Bitcoin update. You want me to do a Bitcoin update? I might start doing that. I'll look into that, see what I can throw up there for the morning stocks news. Seawall 728. Let me know where to send the MAGA hat. I'm not going to do the MAGA hat. I don't really wear hats. Let's see. Surprised we didn't see a Ron Helton in here, but he might still be sleeping because he was up pretty late for the debate last night too. I know that's part of the reason I'm tripping over my words right now is because I was up pretty late for the debate. Meth and heroin are a cancer. Those dealers should even face the death penalty. Yeah. Biden, end the drug war, kind of. Trump, why did you do that as VP? Yeah, Biden wants to end the war on Hunter. ADL Borat can go to hell. Yup. Miami has been scared shirtless of cops and he's white. Miami says, who's Jed going to vote for? Jorgie? No, I was actually going to leave the top of the ticket blank. Because there was nobody that's going to be on the ballot in my state that has earned my vote. With policy prescription, with record, or anything else. Nobody had earned my vote. But this whole federalism thing really pushed me over the edge. Yeah. Seawall is playing Amazing Grace on the bagpipes because the old girl might be done. We might actually have to start throwing some money together and doing something about that. Which I know, who was it? Somebody, I think it was Miami's. No, it was Saint that said something about a $550 build that could possibly work for my needs. And he never sent me the link for that, but I'd like to look into that if possible. The R-rated conservative is in here with a sticker and a come on man. Thanks once again to the R-rated conservative for coming by and hanging out with us last night, Stephen and I, to go and watch this and figure out what was going to come out of the debate. Spartan says zero socialism for business and the only welfare program should be UBI. No. Miami says use NASA funds. Yeah, we'll have that announcement on Monday by the time the Red Net show comes around. Yeah, the argument to UBI is just to lower the taxes. That's a good one. You guys have a really good discussion going on UBI too, so. Seawall welcomes me to the team. And Elephant Man is here at the end. There's Ron Helton. I knew he was going to show up at some point here. How was your nap, Ron? Elephant Man 007 gave me a how dare you at the end. Thank you very much for that. Seawall says he'll be happy to help design a build for me. I think I've got it. I'll redo it up. There's a spec finder that I got. That somebody in one of my video game streams brought to my attention. I'll go through and I'll put that back together again and I'll send it over to you so you can see. But it's coming up with the money right now is the biggest part. Because the build I have is about $1,000. And I'm also trying to get over and get my real estate license, which is going to be about $2,000. So that's why I pointed out the PayPal in the bottom. Because if in any way you guys can help me get the new computer built, it's going to improve the show for you guys too. So if you can help me, that's awesome. If you can't, do yourselves first. Because that's my biggest thing is if you can't help out, then make sure you help yourself first. And that is going to be it for the show today and for the week. There will be no Ed Talk this weekend. Well, maybe. I might do it. I might even do an impromptu video game stream over the weekend. But I might throw one together and just get some thoughts from you guys on the debate and actually get a discussion on that. Because I'm interested to see what you guys think. So I will announce at noon Central tomorrow if I'm going to have the Ed Talk or not. And it will be at 5:30 Central if I do. So if you guys can join, that'd be awesome. If you can't, well, hopefully we'll catch you on the replay. Otherwise, we will be back here on Monday for more contemporary because there's going to be a lot more news coming up out of the weekend, I anticipate already. Or tomorrow night, or Monday night rather, for the Red and Ed show featuring Clint, Libertarian Thought, over on Twitter from the Liberty Lock Pod. He's going to be stepping in because Elaine has to step out briefly because they're coming down to election crunch as well, and they're doing their last minute stuff to see if they can't get Joe Jorgensen to the top of the ticket. So, thanks Clint for coming in and sitting in for that. Hopefully you guys will come in and hang out with the two of us as well. Either way, we will be back here next week. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.